Once again, I'm faced with the introduction of a new character. A new character has come on the scene, and like the gravity of this election is now swirling around one Tony Hinchcliffe, a man I did not know
Oh.
existed until today. So once again, similar to Osmongold and his rat alarm clock, I'm turning to you, Felix. Who is Tony Heathcliff?
So Tony Hinchcliffe, I was very surprised because Tony Hinchcliffe has had something of a I guess I wouldn't quite say a renaissance, but a good year for the past year because he had a star-making turn at Tom Brady's roast, and just a lot of people who have to blow into a breathalyzer to start their car were like, "Who is this hilarious guy?" and became new Tony fans. But for people who don't know, Tony Hinchcliffe is, if there aren't Enron type investigations about the Tony Hinchcliffe bubble in 3 years, then all institutions are forfeit. He is the host of a show called Kill Tony, which is sort of like Drewski's could have been auditions, but not funny. He's one of these guys that like this crew of comedians who like followed Rogan to Austin. And ever since Rogan's like more explicitly right-wing turn, they've all like added political material to their repertoire. So Tony's old thing used to be like on Kill Tony, it was like a gong show type thing where they would have someone come up and do like 2 minutes and the panel of hilarious comedians would would judge them with hilarious lines. But ever since Rogan started, having Ben Shapiro and everyone on, like Tony and David Lucas and all these guys do, like, they're doing political material, but it's so like wildly uninformed and hackish that it just, like, I heard one thing from David Lucas, who's a Kill Tony regular, and it was Biden's whole cabin sucks. These are like his cabin. These are like subliterate people attempting to kiss up to Rogan. But I am very surprised to see him the subject of a national story. It is the worst decision he could have made, the Puerto Rico joke. Because like no one really thinks about Puerto Rico like that as a floating garbage patch. 2, just for purely cynical reasons.
The Dominican Republic thinks that about Puerto Rico, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they're not voting. They're not voting. Like they're the Dominican Republic does not get to vote in our elections. I think they should. I think that there should be polling stations inside T-Mobile stores managed by those incredibly strong Dominican guys in very tight shirts. But secondly, it's stupid because half of Trump's surrogates are like white Puerto Rican congressmen named things like David Carumba.
Well, I mean, I guess like so. Yeah, he made a joke that Puerto Rico is a floating garbage island. It's an island full of garbage floating in the ocean.
A lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay, all right, okay. We're getting there.
But like for the first time ever, I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh and Dave, this seems to be like the first time I can remember that the Trump campaign has distanced themselves from an offensive comment made by one of their surrogates. Like, what is it about this Puerto Rico comment? Like, will this have any effect on the election? Or like, what accounts for this being gun shy about this one particular joke?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like a return, like just from a person who follows the news instead of somebody who like is reporting it. Just like a return to like the Republicans having to reply to every Trump scandal, like in 2016 and during his administration, where they'd have to like say like, "Oh, we disagree with this, but we support the agenda," blah blah blah. And they've totally stopped doing that this year. Like even like when they had the Hitler, like the John Kelly saying that Trump was a fascist thing, they just refused to even comment on that. And they said the media was playing a game with like trying to, I think Vance said that on like CNN. But with this, you had like Rick Scott and like every Republican congressperson in Miami releasing a statement saying, "We do not agree with this. Puerto Rico is awesome." And like the Florida part of it is like kind of real. There are some semi-competitive races there. But like the larger thing might be that there are a lot of Puerto Rican voters in Pennsylvania. So that might just be why they care about it.
Yeah, that's totally it. The only swing state with a ton. Well, there are small amounts, mostly in the cities in Wisconsin and Michigan, but the Puerto Rican population, Latino population in Pennsylvania is huge. It's like 500,000 people. A lot of that's Puerto Ricans. A lot of Puerto Ricans who left the island basically in the last 15 years. Because this is a huge tangent, but America's always treated it like crap. And after the economic crisis, it just never recovered. So people keep fleeing, and they show up in America, they vote. So it was all about Pennsylvania. So this is the second time he's actually claimed to be offended by something Trump did, which is awkward. He did it with the Haitian thing, and I was proud to be, I think, the first reporter to ask him about it, because he showed up at the debate in Philadelphia, and I asked him what he thought of what Trump was saying about Haitian migrants, and he said he hadn't heard it. And then, I don't know, an hour later, Trump has the debate where he brings it up. But there aren't that many Haitians, and they're not registered to vote. There's this Elon idea that Democrats are moving every migrant of military age across the country as sleeper cells. They're all going to have them vote on election day. And this reveals that they don't actually believe that. They do know that Puerto Ricans are here. They can vote. Trump did a lot to campaign for that. There's one, I forget where in Pennsylvania.
Hold on,
Yeah.
David. Puerto Ricans can vote? Okay, I've had enough about Biden. Where are they getting? They're making new voters now? They're making Puerto Ricans Americans? When did this happen? There must have been smoking something that day.
I'm as confused as anybody, but they show up, they get a new address, and all of a sudden they can vote. And they also, Trump had brought like Puerto Rican rappers to Pennsylvania to campaign for him, so he knew this was happening. And
wait, didn't he bring Annuel out?
Unwell. Do you know who they are? Do you know who the hell they are? Come up here, just fast, fellas, come on, because I don't know if these people know who the hell you are. But it's good for the Puerto Rican vote. Every Puerto Rican is going to vote for Trump right now. We'll take.
I think that was the guy. I wasn't as familiar. I'm not trying to say, I'm too good for Puerto Rico. I just didn't know it. I said, I assume this guy's really famous.
No, he's a very popular rapper.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with this scandal specifically, like, if Trump loses, this is going to be like one of those perfectly crystallized moments, like the Javits Center for Clinton, or, in 2015 when there was that fundraiser dinner with Beyonce and Adam Schiff that was like sponsored by Raytheon for some reason. One of those things that just seems like a bad Photoshop from like a leftist content aggregator account. This would be the perfect epitome of what this Trump campaign was, because the fact that they even had Tony Hinchcliffe speaking there shows what an internet bubble they're in.
Right.
I mean, people are pointing out from a Rogan episode this August that he said that Trump should have Tony Hinchcliffe punch up his material.
That's crazy, because there's no way this Tony guy is as funny as Donald Trump is.
Yeah. No, Tony could never come up. Tony could never come up with something nearly as funny as the Trump Greta Thunberg line, where he's like, "Why doesn't she see an old-fashioned movie with her friend?" That's like, he's never said anything that funny. But the only people who are like super, getting into him now are just like very, very internet addicted conservatives. And it shows that they have totally captured the campaign. Secondary to this is the fact that like they did this in pursuit of what exactly? They were doing a rally in Madison Square Garden where, like, yeah, they like doing these things sometimes where they will hold a big event in like, a very blue but very populous state where, like, just mathematically there are going to be a lot of people there that like Trump. Like, even if Trump will never come close to winning New York, there are a lot of people in New York State, New York City, who like Trump. So they can, point to the rally and be like, look, we got 70,000 fucking people in, here. It's in play. But it's, sometimes you gamble on something in a campaign. It's like a negative ad or like a line of attack that's out there, and it's in pursuit of some goal. It's in pursuit of like, attacking your opponent's strengths, putting like one part of one state into play, and it does pay off or it doesn't pay off. This was just like taking a gun out and shooting yourself in the leg for no reason.
Yeah,
None of this had to happen.
The idea was to get national attention, where it's like, well, politics is very nationalized now. So, like, the difference between doing like a rally in like fucking like Crackerville, Wisconsin, or where everybody's already seen you go there like 50 times, versus like doing this big rally with tons of people in this huge like media capital of the world with like tens of thousands of people. Like, the idea of that is so you can get a lot of attention. So, like, this isn't like they're not just like trying to fire up the base. I think that having like Elon go up there or whatever, like the killed Tony guy was doing. The idea is that this is like the closing message they want to put forward. It's like a more sophisticated version of how the base's closing message on like Twitter in 2020 was when they got like the pictures of Hunter's dick from like the Chinese millionaire guy who ran that news site. It's just that, but like on a massive scale now.
Yeah, and Kamala's going to have a rally in D.C. that's her closing message, and obviously everyone who comes in that rally was going to vote for her anyway within like a 10-mile radius. It's just, the idea is that the media, and this is true, the media is just so exploded and fractured that nobody listens to the same stuff, but you can freeze where the media actually lives, and they can just walk over to the rally and say, okay, this is the closing message, the thing you were not paying attention to, this is how we're closing. But I mean, I agree with everything that Felix said, that the whole Trump campaign has been just going after young men who listen to podcasts and vape for 6 months. They're still obsessed. Trump was still defending, I'm the candidate of free speech, etc. This is a line he often uses. Elon often uses this. And whatever you think of the Elon Twitter purchase, it saved quote unquote free speech, right? If you were worried that you were going to get canceled for saying some crazy stuff under a pseudonym online, you can't be anymore. If you're worried that you're not going to have a successful comedy career by talking like Joe Rogan, yeah, you can much more successful comedy career. So they really have been talking to each other in this circle for months and months, not knowing what sounds offensive anymore. This is the sequel to JD Vance talking about cat ladies, because everyone on the trad Catholic right talks like that. And once it leaves that bubble, people are like, oh wait, you noticed that I was saying this?
Yeah.
They didn't realize it sounded crazy to people.
Yeah, like JD Vance talking about like who the people on D-Day would vote for.
That's just a total
Yeah.
Reddit meme, like 4chan guy meme.
Yeah. And like the out that I see, like, obviously like the campaign and most Republicans who matter have distanced themselves, in very kind of like what Josh said. It's very reminiscent of a more normal Trump campaign back when Republicans used to do that. But the line I've seen from just like, freelance defenders of the campaign has been, oh, well, he's a comedian. And it's like, sure, but you kind of lose some of that license when you're going to a presidential candidate's rally and like and endorsing them and doing your whole shitty act under the valence of vote for this guy. That's way different than just doing your set.
There was a story I saw that right before we started recording, I think it was The Guardian, that in his material that was approved by the campaign, Tony was going to call Kamala Harris a cunt, but they vetoed that. So I mean, I guess there was some quality control there, but like,
or they approved everything else.
Yeah.
All right. Heck yeah. It's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that? A lampshade? Look at this guy. I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome.